The cryopod's thermal sensors registered -43 degrees Celsius when Laura found it wedged between two collapsed atmospheric processors on station Kepler 442b. Ice crystals had formed intricate fractals across the viewing port, but through the frozen lattice, he could make out a small form inside. A child, no more than 6 years old, suspended in emergency stasis. Laura's breath fogged inside his helmet as he brushed away the frost. The pod was ancient, at least 30 years old based on the model number. Its power cell blinked amber, less than 6 hours of life support remaining. He ran his gloved hand across the control panel, accessing the pod's data logs. One file, a single text document that made his blood run colder than the Kepler 442b winter. Daughter of some dragon, do what you will with her. No name, no identification codes, no medical history or genetic markers, just those 8 words and a child dying slowly in a coffin of metal and ice. Laura keyed his comm. Central, this is Field Tech Laura Chen. I've got a situation at Grid 779er. Emergency cryopod, occupant alive, power critical, requesting immediate medevac. Static crackled. Then, negative Chen, we're at capacity with the reactor leak victims. Can you stabilize on site? Laura looked at the blinking amber light. 5 hours, 42 minutes. The nearest shelter was 3 hours away by rover, assuming the radiation storms held off. The pod couldn't be moved. Its structural integrity was compromised. Stress fractures spiderwebbing across the lower chassis. Opening it here meant certain death for the child. The temperature would drop her core temperature to lethal levels in minutes. Chen, confirm receipt. Stabilize on-site or abort. He stared at those words again. Daughter of some dragon. In the old languages of Earth, dragon meant power, meant something vast and terrible. Whoever had left this child here wanted her erased, wanted her story to end in the frozen wastes of a failed colony world. Chen. Confirmed, Laura said quietly, stabilizing on site. He disconnected the comm and got to work. The child's name was Lisa. Laura learned this 3 days later when she finally opened her eyes in the makeshift medical bay he'd constructed in his research hab. He'd managed to jury-rig a power transfer from his own generator to the cryopod, then slowly, so slowly, raised the temperature over 48 hours until it was safe to begin the revival sequence. His own power reserves were now at 18%, enough for maybe a week if he rationed carefully. Lisa's first words were, "Where's my mother?" Laura pulled up a stool beside the medbed. The girl's eyes were an unusual shade of amber, almost luminescent in the dim lighting. Genetic modification, probably. Expensive work, the kind only the old corporate families could afford. "I don't know," Laura said honestly. "I found you alone. There was a note but no other information." Lisa's small hands clenched the thermal blanket. She said she'd come back. She promised. Laura had heard that promise before, a lifetime ago, in a different context. He'd been 9 when his own parents had left him at the Ganymede work colony, promising they'd return once they'd made their fortune in the belt. He was 34 now, still waiting. "Tell me about your mother," he said gently. Lisa's story came out in fragments over the following days. Her mother had been a genetic engineer, one of the lead scientists in something called the Dragon Project, a classified research initiative aimed at creating humans who could survive in extreme environments without technological support. Genetic weaving on a scale that made current modifications look like crude finger painting. Her mother had used her own daughter as a test subject. "She made me special," Lisa said, holding up her hand. In the cold air of the hab, her breath didn't fog. Her core temperature was a steady 29 degrees Celsius, hypothermic for a normal human, but Lisa showed no signs of distress. "I don't feel cold like you do, and I heal fast, and I can hold my breath for 30 minutes. Why did she leave you in the pod?" Lisa's luminous eyes dimmed. "The company found out. They wanted to take me away, study me. Maybe hurt me to see how I was made. Mother said I had to hide until it was safe. She said she'd lead them away and come back. Laura understood then. The note was misdirection. Daughter of some dragon, not a condemnation but a shield. If the company found the pod, they'd think Lisa was just another abandoned child, not worth the resources to investigate. They'd leave her to freeze. No one would look for Dragon's daughter if the dragon herself had discarded her. But her mother hadn't counted on the power cell degrading so quickly. Or maybe she had, and this was the kindest death she could give her daughter, painless, in sleep, rather than in a company laboratory. Your mother loved you, Laura said. Everything she did was to protect you. Then why hasn't she come back? Laura had no answer for that, but he had suspicions. The Dragon Project had been shut down 8 years ago amid scandal, unauthorized human experimentation, genetic atrocities, corporate espionage. Most of the lead researchers had disappeared, some into corporate witness protection, others into far less pleasant circumstances. The decision should have been simple. Report the child to Central, let the colonial authorities handle it, move on with his atmospheric research. Laura had his own life, his own problems. Station Kepler 442b was failing, the terraforming project hemorrhaging money and colonists with each passing year. In another decade, maybe 2, everyone would evacuate and leave this world to freeze in peace. He should have reported her. Instead, Laura found himself teaching Lisa how to operate the spectrometer, how to read atmospheric composition data, how to identify which mineral deposits were worth surveying and which were fool's gold. She learned with frightening speed, her modified brain processing information at rates that would make a normal child's head spin. "Why are you helping me?" Lisa asked one evening as they watched Kepler 442 dim red sun set through the Hab's observation window. "I'm nobody, just some experiment that failed." Laura remembered another child standing in the Ganymede Processing Center, watching ships come and go through the domed ceiling, waiting for parents who would never return. He remembered the administrative officer who'd sat down beside him and said, "Kid, you've got 2 choices. You can wait here forever or you can make your own family." "You're not a failed experiment," Laura said. "You're a person, and right now you're my responsibility." "But you didn't have to keep me. You could have turned me in." "I could have." Laura watched ice crystals form on the window as the temperature dropped. "But that note you were left with, daughter of some dragon, I think I understand it now. Dragons in the old stories weren't just monsters. They were creatures that lived between worlds that didn't fit anywhere, powerful and alone." "That's sad." "It is, but here's the thing about dragons that people forget. They chose their treasures carefully, and they never let them go." Lisa looked up at him, those strange amber eyes searching. "Am I your treasure?" Laura smiled, feeling something crack open in his chest, some sealed chamber he'd kept locked since Ganymede. "Yeah, kid, I think you are." The company came 3 months later. Laura had expected them eventually. Lisa's biometrics were too unusual to stay hidden forever. The medical scans he'd had to run, the supply orders for her specialized nutrients, all of it left digital fingerprints for anyone patient enough to look. The corporate security team arrived in a stealth shuttle, 6 operatives in black environment suits. Their leader was a woman with cybernetic eyes that glowed pale blue in the dim Kepler light. "Dr. Chen," she said, "we're here for the Dragon Project asset. Surrender her peacefully and there will be no complications for you." Laura stood in the Hab doorway, blocking their path. Behind him, Lisa hid in the equipment storage, just as they'd practiced in emergency drills. "She's not an asset," Laura said. "She's a child and she stays with me." The woman's expression didn't change. "Dr. Chen, you're harboring stolen corporate property. The genetic modifications in that child represent billions in research investment. We're prepared to compensate you generously for your cooperation, but we will take her with or without your consent." Laura's hand moved to his belt where his plasma cutter hung. Not a weapon officially, but at full power it could cut through a pressure suit in seconds. Try it. For a long moment nobody moved. Then the woman smiled, cold and sharp. Very well, we'll add obstruction charges to your file. Goodbye, Dr. Chen. She raised her sidearm, and Laura knew with crystal certainty that he was about to die. He'd made his choice. He'd chosen his treasure, and like the dragons of old stories, he'd defend it to the end. But before she could fire, the hab's exterior lights exploded in a shower of sparks. The temperature dropped instantly, Laura's emergency thermal protocols, but overridden, amplified beyond normal parameters. The corporate operative suits began to frost over, their heating elements straining against the sudden plunge to -70 degrees. Lisa stepped out of the storage bay. Her skin had taken on a faint, silvery sheen, some adaptation Laura had never seen before. The cold didn't touch her. She was a dragon's daughter indeed, made for worlds that would kill normal humans. He said I'm his treasure, Lisa said quietly, and dragons protect their treasures too. The corporate team retreated, their suits failing, their breath coming in gasps. They stumbled to their shuttle and fled into Kepler's hostile sky. When it was over, Laura wrapped his arms around Lisa and held her close, feeling her unnaturally cool skin against his suit. Looks like we're both outsiders now, he said. Lisa nodded against his chest, but we're together. Yeah, Laura said, looking out at the frozen wasteland of Kepler 442b, at the failed colony and dying world that was now their home. We're together. Now you're mine and I'm yours. That's how family works. And for the first time since Ganymede, Laura Chen felt like he'd come home.